At least 15 people have been killed, dozens injured in the truck attack in New Orleans that has been labeled a terrorist event. The story there is that a man in a pickup flying an Islamic State flag plowed into a large crowd in New Orleans French Quarter early today, 3:30 or so in the morning, killing at least 15 people and injuring more than 30 in what authorities have labeled and called a terrorist attack. 2 police officers were also injured in the shootout, with the suspect, who is an Army veteran, who was killed in a firefight. My name's Jeff. It's West Side Jeff, and for Chris Crock. Chris is back in the chair tomorrow night. I just give you common sense opinion on current events, and I have a lot of common sense. I'm going to try to break things down as best as I can. First and foremost is sometimes social media can be a trash receptacle of society, unfortunately. And you got people posting stuff that's inaccurate, not correct. And if you know anything about me, I'm not about trying to be first. I'm about let's try to be accurate. I try not to be spreading misinformation. I hate what Trump has labeled fake news. I grew up in an era of news. I went to college at Ohio University in Athens, Ohio, an hour and a half southeast of Columbus. And my major was Bachelor of Science in Journalism, because I thought at one time I wanted to be in on-air and broadcasting. And as I went through it, I decided I didn't have the pretty face. I wasn't pretty. I wasn't gorgeous. I didn't have the face for television. And I didn't want to make $10 an hour working in radio doing on-air stuff. So I went into the business side of it. And 10, 12 years ago, happened to be at the right place, right time, and program director, and event went down, and he and I were talking, and he was talking about he wasn't sure what he's going to do. I said, put me on the air, and we talked about it, and he did, and the rest is history, and I've just got that bug, and I get a chance to fill in. My background in journalism, I have a great respect for what the professionalism that journalism is supposed to be. And what it was. I grew up in an era, I went to college, and my attitude was I was taught that the media should be the watchdog of the community, the watchdog of the government. And I believe that. In my heart of hearts, I believe that. I live that. That's my very blood, that the media is the watchdog of the community. And talk radio to me is about a conversation with the community. And I am adamant that I'm not an alarmist. If you want an alarmist, I'm not it. I don't get on the radio and scream alarmists that the world's going to end. I'd rather have just a legitimate cerebral conversation with you about the events of the day. Today, we saw something that was very, very disappointing to see on all fronts, that we actually have a U.S. citizen. I saw all day long, this isn't illegal. It came over the border illegally. No, he's not. He was a U.S. citizen. He was in the U.S. military. But from all accounts I've read, I've gone many, many different sources, he was radicalized. Somewhere along the line, this guy went foul. This guy went the wrong direction. This guy's wires got disconnected. And somewhere along the way, become an anti-American. I hate America. He became sympathetic to Islamic terrorism. And unfortunately, as we just talked to Brian from Garland, Brian, in essence, said to me, we need to improve security. And my attitude, Brian, is this. There's only so much we can do. I don't want the government checking everything that I do and listening to everything I say. I don't want that kind of oversight. We live in a free and fair America where you and I can travel freely between cities and between states without the Gestapo stopping us and checking our visas and passports. As long as we have a free democratic society, you can't ever legislate against it. You're always going to have evil, and you can't eliminate evil. The best you can do is security in advance. The best you can do is intelligence to identify stuff. And I contend this, with every event that we've ever seen, every terrorist type event, take the word terrorist out, with every significant news event like this, the mass shootings, anything that these mass evil events, we always find out after the fact when the story is written. You know, the quote unquote Monday morning quarterback, we always find out there were a lot of warning signs. There were a lot of folks that saw something, heard something, that if somebody had spoken up, we might have been able to prevent it. This isn't some guy just all of a sudden, went through his life and wires got disconnected and nobody knew anything or saw anything or had any inclination on anything, and he gets in a truck and he drives through barricades and goes and kills people. There were a lot of warning signs. We don't know them right now. We don't know them yet. They'll come out. This is like a big onion. I talk about this all the time on the radio. These events, breaking news events, are like a big stinky onion. They're big. There's a lot of layers to it. And as you unpeel it, it gets stinkier. And we're going to find out after the fact. Right now, SWAT team is outside of his house down in Houston because there's a connection. U.S. citizen, supposedly, my guess is, I haven't read up on it because it's hard to do it while I'm talking on the air, he has a residence in Houston. So there's a tie back to Texas. In fact, Governor Abbott has talked to the governor of Louisiana and offered all kinds of support, including law enforcement and I believe National Guard. We talked a little while ago to Neil Williamson. He's part of the broadcast crew for University of Georgia football crew that's in New Orleans. And he said the governor of Louisiana has deployed National Guard to Louisiana for protection for tomorrow's game. As long as we live in a free society, as long as we have the ability of what I call freedom, what you call freedom, you can't ever avoid these kinds of events. But we're going to find out after the fact that there were warning signs. I suspect we're going to find out at some point in time, people knew this guy, and they're going to say that somewhere along the line in the last couple of months, maybe the last several months, he had anti-American views. He said things that didn't stick out, that stuck out to them as odd. He went silent, radio silent. He kind of became withdrawn. He kind of stopped in being social with his friends and family. We're going to find those things out. We don't know yet, but we're going to find out, like every other significant news event, that this person probably became withdrawn. There were warning signs in advance and nobody spoke out. That's my 2 cents worth. So to the callers that say, you know what, we need to legislate against this. We need the government to... No, we don't. We don't need the government for more control. We don't need the government to solve the problems. You are the solver of the problem. I can solve the problem. If you see something that doesn't look right, if you hear something that doesn't look right, if something sticks out, if you've got a friend in need, what's wrong with saying, hey, you okay? Asking a lot of questions. And if you sense there's something that could involve law enforcement, pick up the phone and make a call. That didn't happen here. We're going to find out there were a lot of warning signs along the way from a lot of folks, and nobody did anything on both events. We're talking about the continuing coverage of the story out of New Orleans and the terrorist attack. The FBI is in Houston right now with SWAT teams combing through probably this person's home, their neighbors, their friends, their social media accounts, as well as the event in Las Vegas. So I want to talk next. I've got to hit the news, a quick break on the other side of this. I want to talk a little bit about Elon Musk and what Elon Musk is talking about with regard to the events of the Tesla Cybertruck explosion outside of Las Vegas Donald Trump Hotel. 2 terrorist events going on in our country on the very first day of 2025. In advance, 21 days in advance, 20 days in advance of President Trump taking over the White House. It's a big story. We'll continue the conversation. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. The other event going on above and beyond New Orleans, again, the latest is suspect drove up the sidewalk and around barriers in New Orleans, killed 15 people at 3:30 this morning in New Orleans. Dozens are injured. The Sugar Bowl in New Orleans has been postponed. That alone is a significant event. The media perspective, think about the amount of money that was spent on the Sugar Bowl. This is the first year of college football playoffs being totally changed, it's almost a Super Bowl style format this year. You know, it used to be that college football teams like the Texas Longhorns would go play in a bowl game and the game would be over and they'd go home and that'd be the end of college football season. That's not the case. If you win, you continue. And it's heading towards a national championship game. By the way, Texas Longhorns, the next game they play is going to be here in Arlington, Texas, a week from Friday night at 7:30 p.m. against the Ohio State University Buckeyes. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio, a mile and a half west of Ohio Stadium. This Ohio State football team is for real. I said many times, I've said several times, the Ohio State football team got embarrassed in the Michigan game. It was complete and total debacle and embarrassment. And I think that's the best thing could happen to Ohio State football. One of two things would happen. I said that literally with a minute and a half left in the game. Mrs. Westside Jeff said to me, "What do you think?" I said, "This is the best thing could happen." One of two. She said, "Why?" I said, "One of two things going to happen. Either they're going to fold and go home, and if they make it in the playoffs, they're going to look horrible and get the crap beat out of them, embarrassed, and they should, or they're going to go on and win the national championship." And she said, "What do you think?" I said, "They're going to come back and win in the first playoff game against Tennessee big. Bet the spread. They're going to win big." And everybody said, "You're nuts. Why do you think that?" I said, "Ryan Day doesn't lose 2 games in a row." Is he the greatest college football coach in the world? No. I put Kirby Smart, University of Georgia Bulldogs football coach, is the best college football coach today. But Ryan Day didn't get embarrassed 2 games in a row. I said, this team going to be on a vengeance. Sometimes you got to get humbled to really perform. It's no different than your day job, whether you work today or whether you're retired. The career path that you followed, when you have a moment in your professional career, whether you're in sales or you're in administration or management, when you have a complete and total embarrassment that everybody in your firm, everybody in your company, everybody in your competition, everybody in your sphere of influence sees that you've absolutely got embarrassed, what do? You go back to the drawing board, you pull up your bootstraps, and you come back fighting, and you come back stronger than ever. That's what happened with Ohio State. They went on to beat the crap out of Tennessee. Did the same thing tonight in the Rose Bowl against Oregon. And their next game is going to be Tennessee, I think, Texas Longhorns a week from Friday here in Arlington. That, again, I put my money on Ohio State. I think they're going all the way. This team's for real. They're on a mission. That game is a week from Friday here in Arlington, and look for security around that event to be significant. Very significant. Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock. Chris is back tomorrow night. Earlier today, also after the New Orleans event went down, we saw a story developing in Las Vegas. And the latest on that is authorities believe fireworks, gas tanks, and camping fuel were connected to a detonation system controlled by a driver in a Tesla Cybertruck that exploded outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas. That occurred several hours ago. Now, the incident's being investigated as a possible terrorist attack. It hasn't officially been labeled that. I've seen all kinds of comments. It's a terrorist attack. But before I call it that, I want to see multiple media sources and authorities actually call it that way. According to law enforcement, that's what they're investigating it as, but they've not officially labeled it that. At a news conference, Las Vegas Sheriff Kevin McMail said a vehicle fire was reported at the hotel just after 8:40 a.m. local time. That's 11:40 a.m. East Coast time, 10:40 a.m. or 9:40 a.m. Dallas time. Crews arrived to find a 2024 Cybertruck engulfed in flames. He went on to say, he was quoted as saying, this is the sheriff in Las Vegas, said, there's one deceased individual inside the Cybertruck, and I don't know whether it is a male or a female at this time. Seven other victims sustained what McMahill described as minor injuries as a result of the explosion. Now, video shared across social media appears to show the car engulfed in smoke, or the truck was in smoke, as it's being hosed down. Jeremy Schwartz, who's an acting special agent in charge of the FBI in Las Vegas, also confirmed that his team is involved in the investigation and confirms they've not removed the idea of terrorist attack, off the table. In order to be labeled a terrorist attack and truly identified, that has to meet special criteria. So investigators are still trying to figure that out. Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo wrote on X that his office is coordinating with authorities and will ensure they have any necessary resources available. Now, the Cybertruck was rented on a car rental company site called Turo, T-U-R-O. I'm not familiar with them. I've never used them, but I'm very familiar with the concept. That's according to law enforcement official briefed on the investigation. Surveillance video showed a driver passing by the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas about an hour before the car explodes, and then circling back near the end of that hour and stopping in front of the hotel, where the car explodes several seconds later. Authorities are exploring whether there's a connection between that explosion and the attack in New Orleans, where a suspect rammed into a crowd. In a post on X, Elon Musk wrote Tesla is investigating the matter also. As you might imagine, authorities are also in touch with folks at Tesla. Elon Musk said, "We extend our heartfelt gratitude to Las Vegas Fire Department and local law enforcement for their swift response and professionalism." That was actually what Trump said on X. Elon said, "We've now confirmed that the explosion was caused by very large fireworks and or bomb carried in the bed of the rented Cybertruck and is unrelated to the vehicle itself." So Elon Musk came out and said it's not that the vehicle caught fire or blew up. There was other sources as part of that. A local guest of the hotel on the 62nd floor nearby Resorts World Las Vegas at the time of the explosion said she looked out of her window to see a cloud of smoke rising from the area near the Trump Hotel and immediately began recording it. She's posted that across social media. She said, "We saw a huge cloud of smoke, didn't know what was going on. Then I saw a line of probably at least 3 ambulances, a bunch of police cars." She filmed a crowd of what appeared to be Trump Hotel guests standing in nearby parking lot. There does not appear to be any other further threat to the community, according to the sheriff in Las Vegas. But obviously, a Cybertruck, the Trump Hotel, there's a lot of questions that we have to answer as we move forward. Elon Musk was quoted on X earlier, basically talking about the fact that obviously Elon has implications because he's going to be a part of the Trump team this next administration. He has really high profile. And Elon Musk has come out and said that it's a good thing that the suspect used a Tesla truck because the way they are built, they're very, very sturdy. Any other vehicle may have done more damage. So he's using it as a sales point to sell the value of Tesla. He's right on that. I think those are the ugliest trucks I've ever seen. I've never been in one. I've been around them. I've seen them. Those things are built like tanks. So unfortunately for the person that tried to inflict damage on the hotel and the surrounding area, something tells me that if they'd used another brand, another make, another model of vehicle, there might have been more damage. But the Tesla, because of the way it's built, that Tesla truck, it probably minimized the damage. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock. You got an opinion, you want to weigh in on the events of the day, I'd love to hear your take. I'd love to hear your opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. My number is 800-288-WBAP. Again, it's 288-9227, 288-WBAP. I'm also on Facebook, on X, and on Instagram at Westside Jeff. Got a message from Jim that said, "Hey, Jeff, love listening to your show and appreciate all you do. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it." Christopher said the same. have gotten several calls saying the same. Listen, my story's simple. I just give you common sense opinion on current events. And the current events starting off in January 2025 of one confirmed terrorist attack in New Orleans and one suspected terrorist attack in Las Vegas ain't the way I wanted to start the year. It presents a real challenge for our country. I don't think these events are necessary political by nature, but they certainly come into play with the politics of life and what's going on around our country. And we cannot legislate evilness in a free country. Earlier today, I said to my program director, if you woke up this morning and found out in New Orleans 15 people dead and 30 injured from a gun attack, the Democrats would be all over your TV screens and social media posting about anti-Republican, our stance on guns and gun control, and they would just be attacking us all day. But they've been pretty much crickets all day because it doesn't meet the narrative. We got a lot of problems in this country. We got a lot of evilness in this country. We got a lot of bad people in this country. I don't want government lockdown. I don't want to be controlled by government. I don't want I don't want control of access across this country. I think the media got to get back to what they do best, and that is watchdog of the government, watchdog of the community, and stop being talking heads for political parties. You won't get that out of me. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. We'll continue the conversation. Got to hit the bottom of the hour news with Mickey Briggs in the newsroom. That's in 2 minutes. On the other side of that, we'll take your calls, your interaction, 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-WBAP. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. In for Chris Crock, News Talk, 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Talking about continuing coverage throughout the night here on WBAP for the terrorist event in New Orleans, as well as the event going on in Las Vegas. Authorities are combing the country in those areas, trying to put the puzzle together. Earlier tonight, Joe Biden spoke at the White, I think from Camp David. I didn't exactly watch the whole thing. I was going back and forth between that and the Rose Bowl. And he said Islamic State-inspired driver expressed desire to kill before the deadly New Orleans rampage. We're talking about the events of the confirmed terrorist attack out of New Orleans, as well as the event of the person who blew up a Tesla truck at a Trump hotel in Las Vegas. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff sitting in for Chris Crock. Chris is back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock here. He'll be taking over the chair. It's been a thrill to fill in here on WBAP. Mario Costanza, thanks for shooting me a message across Facebook. You can hit me up across social media, by the way, at Westside Jeff. Mario shoots me a note that says, hey, Jeff, listening to you from about an hour north of New York City on the WBAP app. Mario, thanks for listening. By the way, if you don't have the app, I would highly encourage you to do it for a bunch of reasons. All throughout the day, I got notifications on my WBAP app about the news going on. We've got an app. You can go to your phone, go into your app store, type WBAP. You'll see the app, download it, and you will get notifications along the way of breaking news. We'll keep you up to speed, whether you're in New York City, like Mario, or an hour north of New York, or you're listening up in Minnesota, or over in California, or over in Florida. And if you live in the area anywhere around Texas, and you're traveling on vacation or on business, the app will keep you up to speed on everything weather-related, news-related. You will get notifications along the way of anything that's going on, not only here in North Texas, but around the country. It's the app. Download the app, WBAP, on your app store. It's free. You can also use it to listen to the radio station at the bottom, or on the app. You can click Listen Live and take it with you anytime, anywhere. At the bottom of it, you've got podcasts. You can click on that and listen to previous shows on the station and go back and listen to some of the things you've missed. There's real value in it. I love my WBAP app because it keeps me up to speed on what's going on from a news perspective around North Texas as well as around the country. Again, Jeff is the name, Westside Jeff, in for Chris Kroc. Chris is back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. My perspective on the events of the day, bunch of things. First of all, it's New Year's Day. It's the day, I posted this earlier today across social media. Again, Westside Jeff app or Westside Jeff on Facebook. This was the day today. It was the last chance for many of us to spend time with family and friends, celebrating and enjoying each other through the holidays. I love the Christmas holiday season. A lot of people take time off work and travel. And those in North Texas, many times we have family and friends who grew up here in the area but travel around the country and move to other areas of the country for the career path. And there are many times that folks don't get back here to North Texas but once or twice a year, and the holidays like this is one of those. So the Christmas holiday season. A lot of people will take off sometime around Christmas and take the week off, especially when you only have, because of the weekend, you only have to take a couple days off, and families travel for Christmas. This was the last day for many to enjoy family and friends until the next long holiday, and that happens to be Memorial Day. So you have 5 months. And the events of the day today in New Orleans and Las Vegas remind us that in a country of freedom, it's the price we pay for freedom. I hate to see and experience loss of life like we have today. 15 dead confirmed in New Orleans, with dozens injured, and 7 injured, I think 1 dead and 7 injured in Las Vegas. The New Orleans event has been labeled a terrorist attack. The perpetrator has committed, has designated that he is committed to ISIS. He had an ISIS flag in his vehicle. And as the day went on today, I was scrolling across social media, and I couldn't believe some of the half-truths I saw. I couldn't believe the things I saw people posting that turned out not to be true. What I call fake news. My attitude is this: let the authorities do what the authorities do best. Let the FBI, Homeland Security, state and local law officials get involved. Let them dig in deep. Let them get to the information and let them convey that information. My thought on the media is let the media do what the media is supposed to do. The media is supposed to be a watchdog of the government, a watchdog of our community. I firmly believe for the last 8 years or so, the media has got away from doing that. The media has, in essence, turned into a public relations arm of the Democratic Party. A little bit of that started under the Obama administration. They just couldn't sing his praises enough. It really got pronounced when Trump took office in 2016. It was the media became the resistance against everything Trump wanted. It truly was a resistance. And when Joe Biden took over, he was their savior because he beat Trump, because he defeated Trump. He unseated Trump. And he was going to return the government to transparency, return it to civilization, return it to being legitimately a good government again. Well, we know what happened there. And now that Trump's coming back in, the resistance continues. But people are posting stuff across social media that I'm like, no, I want to see multiple sources. I want to see verification. I don't want to be first to the trigger. I want to be accurate to the trigger. Right now, we know the FBI and task force is in Houston. They have entered the suspect's home, the suspect in the event in New Orleans. They've identified who he is. He's a U.S. citizen. He's not an illegal immigrant. He served in the U.S. military. He, somewhere along the line, became radicalized and committed towards ISIS. Let the law enforcement do what they do best. Let them dig into it. Let them unravel this. Let them unpeel the onion and build their story. I say give them time to do it and let the facts come out as they may. But in the end, this isn't about guns. This isn't about radicalism. It's part of it. This is about evil. This was an evil person. And we're going to find out in the end that this evil person, there were warning signs along the way that a lot of folks failed to report, to talk about, and to bring to light. And shame on them. I'd like to hear your perspective on the events of the day today. It disrupted college football. It disrupted life. And it's going to change the Sugar Bowl that was supposed to be on tonight. It's going to be on tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern time, 3 o'clock Dallas time. Notre Dame playing against Georgia. There's a side of me that wonders if the attack in New Orleans was a little bit of an attack on religion, because religion is under attack. Notre Dame represents all things Catholicism. And that attack may have something to do with it. May not, but I wonder if it's something about that. Love to hear your perspective. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock. My phone number is 800-288-9227. 800-288-WBAP. Westside Jeff in on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock. Chris is back tomorrow night here in the chair on WBAP at 8 o'clock. It's been a thrill to fill in and just give you common sense opinion on current events. That's what I do. Just born and raised up in the state of Ohio. I'm just a regular guy, not a professional talk show host. I don't do it for a living necessarily. I have a day job in sales and get a chance to sit here and fill in along the way. And cancel culture never scared me. It's always about just giving you my common sense opinion. I follow the news, read the news, multiple different sources, because you never know what to trust anymore. And then I analyze it, process it, and give you my opinion. My opinion's on the day today. New Orleans terrorist attack. Horrible, horrible experience. Couldn't imagine being one of those folks down in and around Bourbon Street, seeing a vehicle run past all these barricades, bulldoze people over, crash, guy get out, firefight with the police, bullets firing everywhere. I feel bad for those University of Georgia fans and Notre Dame fans. You know, Bourbon Street was full of college football fans who were in town for what was supposed to be the Sugar Bowl tonight. We will find more out as time goes about those who were injured and those who were killed. We know that a TCU football player's brother was part of those. We're going to find out more along the way. If you woke up this morning to the news of 10 people dead, that's what the sign was at the time. By the way, if you want to connect with me, 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. I'm also on social media, on Facebook, on X, and Instagram at Westside Jeff. If you woke up this morning to the news of 10 people dead, that was the news originally. We're up to 15 now in New Orleans. So if you woke up to the news of 10 dead and dozens injured from gun violence, Democrats across this country would have been unbelievable across social media, unbearable across social media, and all over your TV screens. They would have looked for TV reporters to talk about the Republicans are bad. They can't pass gun legislation, gun control, and they would use it as their typical speech pattern, their typical soapbox against guns. And they would be blaming Republicans and their lack of support for stronger gun control legislation. But because last night's events wasn't driven primarily by a gun event, this horrible event just didn't meet the Democratic narrative. It didn't reinforce the Democratic narrative of anti-gun. Hence, you haven't seen a lot of Democrats coming out and talking about the events in New Orleans. They've been crickets most of the day. And there's a side of me that's grateful for that, because the problem in this country isn't guns. I'm not a gun guy. I don't own guns. I'm not a gun guy, but I have no problem with them. And I'm glad to see it wasn't a mass gun killing event. You see, they can't come out, legislators, whether Democrats or Republicans, they're not going to come out and say, let's ban trucks. Let's ban vehicles. See, that was a weapon of choice here. The reality is the events in Las Vegas and the events in New Orleans were acts of evil, acts of the devil, acts of retribution. And you cannot legislate that. There's nothing that government can do to manage that. There's no solution to that. The government can't do that. The best we can do is protect our country in events like this as best we can. The best we can do is intelligence along the way and try to root out those things before they happen. And the best we can do as Americans is to stand up, look at our fellow American, try to identify somebody who might have gone wrong, who might be in a position to do something stupid, and try to intervene. The fact, it's interesting, I was talking to my buddy Earl today, taking the dogs for a walk before I came down the studio. And the fact that this occurred in New Orleans, the site of what was supposed to be tonight's Sugar Bowl game, which was University of Georgia Bulldogs playing against Notre Dame, it really wouldn't surprise me if this event was an attack on religion, an attack on Catholicism, an attack of Notre Dame faithful. I'm not saying it was. I don't know if it was. I don't know if we'll find that out. But it wouldn't surprise me if that's part of it. And what it does is it ramps up the importance of intelligence, of law enforcement, who have to protect sizable, significant events. We're going to have a sizable, significant event in AT&T Stadium here in Arlington in 7 days, as the continuation of college football playoffs occurs in AT&T Stadium. Texas Longhorns will face the Ohio State University Buckeyes, and certainly law enforcement has to ramp up additional security. I suspect Governor Abbott will be very vocal between now and then about the additional security he wants to provide. We talked earlier tonight to Neil Williamson. Hondo, as he goes by, is part of the group broadcast crew for University of Georgia football. He's in New Orleans. He was traveling with the team and the broadcasters. He normally would be on the air tonight on radio as part of the broadcast crew for UGA playing Notre Dame at the Sugar Bowl. The game has been moved to 4 o'clock East Coast time tomorrow. That's 3 o'clock Dallas time. So it's been rescheduled. It's postponed. But a couple things he said that were important in our interview is that the events won't significantly impact the team or the game, but they're very aware of it. And the game will be tomorrow at 4 o'clock East Coast time, 3 o'clock Dallas time. So it's been postponed. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. If you want to weigh in, 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. Let's check in with King in North Texas. King, thanks for calling. You're on Chris Crock Show with Westside Jeff.
Good evening. Jeff, did you say?
Yes.
Pleasure to meet you. First-time caller to your show. Fan of the Croc, dude. I listen to him most mornings on the way to college. As a listener, will you ask different questions? Why are Americans acting out against these people or institutions of power?
Good question.
I mean, that's one question that I would ask, and why are we labeling individuals acting out against other individuals as terrorists with no prior warning? Like a terrorist attack, in my opinion, or not opinion, in my definition, is someone who would threaten to harm a people or a population for a political purpose. This guy who shot the guy, the CEO or whatever.
United Healthcare shooting.
I'm sorry?
United Healthcare CEO.
Yeah, that thing, I don't know what they're charging him or what's going to happen, but the mayor has accused that guy of terrorism. And I'm like, don't corrupt the jury pool there, buddy. That's mistrial grounds. Don't do that kind of stuff. I mean, the guy's dead, so we don't get to ask him, and there was no, agenda. There was no thing that he was like, hey, I'm threatening the thing, right? This is who I am and what I'm going to do. That's terrorism. I don't know what this was. And I'm just a listener. I don't know what's happening or what's going on because, we can't. But just ask questions about motive and opportunity, and the weapons don't matter because, God, anybody can use a freaking vehicle to try to kill people now. That's just
King, what's your take on you ask a good question. Why are people acting out against positions of power? What's your answer to that?
I don't have an answer. I just have like anecdotes or quotes, historical or otherwise. All men live lives of quiet desperation until they cannot. I mean, I've been subject to United Healthcare. I was with just straight Medicare, right? So you have, when you reach a certain age or a disability or a qualification, you get Medicare or Medicaid, depending upon your ability or your financial income, right? So there are healthcare managers or management organizations, and they're like Aetna, Healthcare, United, Health Springs. There's like countless numbers of them. There's new ones coming on the market every day tomorrow.
Sure. Positions of power comes back to what you're talking about. King, I get to interrupt you. I got to hit a top of the hour break here with the news with Mickey Briggs in the newsroom. I want to continue this conversation on the other side of the news. That's King from Texas. I'm Westside Jeff sitting in for Chris Crock. If you want to weigh in, 800-288-9227. He asked a really good question. And I can't answer that. I have to process and think about it, but I'd be curious what our listeners have to say. Why is it we're seeing people acting out against positions of power? And the example today is what happened in New Orleans and the radicalization. I'll have my opinion on that on the other side of the news. Mickey Briggs in the newsroom with updates on what's going on in Houston right now as we speak. That's in 2 minutes. On the other side of that, we'll continue the conversation. Westside Jeff in for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.